We will begin with your Whisper White piece for your sentiment, measuring 2 3/4 of an inch by 3 inches. Ready the Strawberry Slush ink pad. Open by gripping the ink pad firmly in your right hand and squeezing the lid while pushing away from you with your left hand. It will snap open. Then flip the lid and snap it into place. Ink the sentiment stamp by dabbing it on the firm foam pad. Flip the stamp over and observe your ink coverage. Dab again until you're happy with the coverage of ink on the surface of your stamp. You will also want to use the Stampin' Pierce mat under your cardstock while stamping with photopolymer stamps so as to get a nice crisp image. Notice how the ink did not transfer properly. This happens when your ink becomes too dry. Just flip your cardstock over and try again. Huffing on your ink moistens it, and you'll get a nice crisp image. Now, let's add a background image to our sentiment panel using pistachio pudding ink. Locate and mount the branch stamp from the Mother's Love stamp set and ink it with your pistachio pudding ink. Now stamp off onto a piece of scrap paper, then stamp it onto the sentiment panel to the right. Ink it up again, stamp off, then stamp to the left. The stamp off technique gives our sentiment panel a subtle background image. Now mount our sentiment panel to the pistachio pudding piece measuring 3 inches by 3 1/4 inches using snail or fast fuse. If using fast fuse, remember to add the flip of the wrist before lifting the dispenser away from the paper. It's so easy to forget. Take care to center the Whisper White panel onto the pistachio pudding mat. Next, we will create our hand-stamped background image. Mount the line art flower on a clear block and the solid flower petals on another clear block. Open both Strawberry Slush and Pistachio Pudding ink pads. Then move the Stampin' Pierce mat below your scrap paper so you can stamp off the edge of the Whisper White paper. Stamping a little off the edge will ensure that your paper looks like it comes from a larger printed piece. In groups of 3, ink up and stamp each image, making sure to clean the stamp between each color. Once you have done each stamp and each color 3 times, fill in the other areas randomly using either color and either stamp. Now center and mount the hand-stamped background image on our Strawberry Slush matte panel using Fast Fuse or Snail. Let's look at each panel and see how we might want to put it together. You can choose a landscape style card or a portrait style card. Add some twine or ribbon and a few embellishments if needed. For my card, I am going to wrap strawberry slush, baker's twine 3 times, and tie a bow, and arrange it nicely on the right side of my background layer. Now I'll pop up this background image layer using Stampin' Dimensionals and center it on the card base. Finally, I will pop up my sentiment using Stampin' Dimensionals centered between the baker's twine and the left edge of the card. My finishing touches will include a group of 3 rhinestones set on the background in the centers of our stamped flowers. Okay, that concludes our make and take, but I would like to show you a few cards that I've made using the same stamp set. Several of these are just single layer cards, just simple note cards. If you have any note cards left over from our last craft along, you can use those, along with the paper that you have left over from today. Each of these have used some part of the stamp set, usually like background images. I've used the line art pieces, and the branch is a really awesome one. There's also a flower that you can 2-step stamp. It works really well with solid blacks. This one here, I just used the sentiment from the set. And on this final card, there's another sentiment, the For You sentiment. I used it on my butterfly card. But there's lots of different ideas that you can get from this entire stamp set. I hope you enjoy and have a great day.